Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Connecting the Dots, a podcast series hosted by 49 Marketing. I'm joined by Lee Densmer, a fractional head of content from all the way over in Boise, Idaho. So it's just after 4:15 here and just after 9:15 a.m. over there. So anyone who commits their Thursday morning to talk to me is a bona fide friend. So Lee, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Neil. I appreciate you having me today. It's not that early. I have European clients and we start at 7:30 sometimes. I'm wide awake.
You are an absolute machine. I don't know how anybody starts work at 7:30, but that's a conversation for another time. So kudos to you.
Well, I have kids. I've been getting up at 5:45 a.m. for 18 years. So that's how it works. Yeah.
So when does your medal arrive in the post? Because I feel like you need some sort of medal or trophy for that.
You know, moms do, and there should be a medal award system, and I'm going to talk to our president about it.
Okay, well, you can do that after this because we've got a lot to get through in this next hour or so. So I always start these podcasts with a tell me about yourself type of question that's not explicitly a tell me about yourself type of question. It's not as rigid or formal as a job interview question, you'll be pleased to know. But it's just so the viewers can align your experience and expertise with the topic you're discussing. So yeah, do you want to start by telling us how you started in content marketing and what your journey's been like?
You bet. I've had a long journey. It's not been a straight path. I really started with project management. I'm thinking, do I tell you about my career, my education? Do I tell all the things? Because it's a long story.
Everyone go for it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
No, my degrees are in teaching, Spanish, and professional writing. So they all have led to what I'm doing today. Certainly in English, a degree in journalism, a writing degree plays right into marketing. But my Spanish degree, my Spanish education has helped me with the concept of global marketing. So I got involved at translation industries right out of grad school. So project management for translation industries, translation companies, and that's called the language services industry. Really super interesting. So all along I've been in that industry, and I went from project management to client services to product marketing. You know, there's the jump to marketing right there, to content marketing. That was about 10 years ago that I started in content marketing. So a crooked path, but all roads, all the things that I've done have led me to being good at what I do.
Yeah, well, I mean, and there have been a lot of roads. So I'm just trying to remember all of the things that I know about you that I find interesting, because there is quite a lot. So you've been to 32 countries, I believe.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about that and some of the languages you speak, because that blows my mind, and I'm sure people will also find that interesting.
Yeah, well, I was born in Peru, so that's where my love of language, travel, culture started. I think I was born to it. Studied Spanish all my life. And as I've gotten older and grown up, you know, I studied abroad in college. As an adult, I've always made the choices to kind of spend my spare money on travel instead of a roof repair or a fridge, you know. So my family, which is my husband and my teenage son, have been to 8 countries recently, but all told in my life, 32. Largely Latin America, because it's, you know, I speak Spanish, so I'm drawn to those countries. But we've been to Asia a couple of times, been to Europe. We're going to Vietnam for spring break. We just booked the trip. And for any of you who love travel, like, booking and planning the trip is almost as fun as going. And then you have that on the calendar as something to look forward to, and it makes a winter a little bit more pleasant.
Well, yeah, I can imagine. Well, it's somewhere that I'd like to go to with the winter here in the UK. I think my mother and father might actually be going at a similar time to you. So maybe if you fancy spending time with 2 67-year-olds, maybe I'll hook you up and you can spend a week or 2 with them.
I've got my own parents. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, there you go. You can do your own thing. But so the subject of this podcast is B2B content distribution and some tips around that. But before we get into that, I'm curious to know what you think are the key ingredients behind effective B2B content.
That's a good question. And I've thought about it a lot. And I do think that marketing teams can overcomplicate it. So I've kind of boiled it down to what I call the 4 C's. And it gives people an easy way to think about it. But they are, the first one is craft. So that means good quality content. So hiring good writers, writing good quality content. The second is conviction. So good content comes when you have a true opinion or a stance or a point of view about something. So be convicted. about what you're writing about. The third is connection. Good content connects with an audience, one audience, not everybody. And so all the tactics that you can employ to make your content connect with that audience goes into that C. And then the fourth C is consistency. A lot of brands, they randomly publish blog posts. They're kind of sporadic on social. That is not a content strategy. So consistency, define your channels, define your content types, and, do it on a regular cadence. So craft, conviction, connection, and consistency.
If you had to pick one of the four that you think most businesses struggle with, which of the four do you think you would pick, and why would you pick it? Like me personally, I'm answering the question for you, but I'm just in my perspective, because I think you can get craft, conviction, and connection right to a point, but it's that consistency and not really caring too much about. Well, I say not caring too much about what other people think. Obviously, you have to care what your ideal customer thinks, but not overthinking it and being consistent with it. I mean, that would be my personal choice, but I want to know kind of which of those four you think would be the one that most businesses struggle with, and why you think that is.
I think it's consistency too. Second to conviction. I pick these because I think companies struggle with them all, but consistency is, blogs on Tuesdays, social Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So your customers can know what to expect from you, know when they're going to hear from you, a newsletter on Tuesdays. And that consistency builds the brand and it builds the trust. Yeah. And anything less than that, can hurt your brand. Like, who are these random people in my feed once a 6 weeks or so?
You can have the most amazing content, but if you're not front of mind for people, whether it's good content or not, they're not going to be thinking about you the same way as someone who may not produce content that's as good, but just shows up all the time. Like I have people that land in my inbox all the time. And do I think their content's absolutely amazing? Not in all cases, but the fact that they show up and their content's a 7 out of 10 all the time makes me more inclined to work with them and buy from them than someone who puts together an 8 or 9 out of 10 piece of content, but you only hear from them once a month. I think that's why I pick that, and presumably that's got something to do with your answer as well.
Yeah, I'd prefer a 9 out of 10 in terms of quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And I also find that conviction is kind of in short supply these days. There's a lot of people in B2B saying the same thing as each other. Yeah. Differentiation and competition is very, very hard. But unless you take a stand and have a point of view and stop talking about the same things as everybody else, then you aren't differentiating. So the conviction is also pretty critical.
Just one final question on that, actually, that's just come to my head. How do you think that businesses can differentiate themselves and show more conviction? I mean, are there any examples that kind of spring to mind for you?
The thing that comes to mind is engaging your thought leaders. So you need to find who your smart people are. You need to find out who is an expert and who has an opinion, because a thought leader isn't always a subject matter expert and the reverse, but find your people with opinions and then get them to talk about them. And I don't care if they're controversial. I don't care if they, kind of put people off, but that gets attention. And it gets your readers, your buyers thinking, well, these people take a stand. These people care about what they do and they're experts. So find your opinionated thought leaders.
So I think back to 2014 or 2015 when I got into B2B marketing or B2B public relations specifically. And I felt that so much of the content was dry, middle of the road, inoffensive. And there wasn't that human angle. There wasn't that human element. And I see that coming to the fore so much more now. And I'm so pleased that that's the case, because I felt like at times it was just me who noticed it and who saw that void in the market. But now it seems to have flipped the complete other way, where personal branding is such a big thing. Right.
And I want to give a thought or two about that, because I'm seeing it a lot on LinkedIn, is that specifically for LinkedIn, corporate handles have trouble getting traction. It's like only the employees going thumbs up, hardly any comments. The way it's swinging is for companies to enable employees to build their brand on behalf of the company and then reposting their stuff on the corporate handle. So you're elevating the brand through the people. That's back to connection, right? Elevating the brand through the people and then leveraging your people. to create content for your corporate page. The issue is that a lot of people, unless the corporate culture really supports it, unless people are happy at their jobs, a lot of employees are like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to leverage my brand for my employer. Like, I'm not doing it. I don't have the time. So the counterpart is that the companies have to train people and empower people and build that culture, or you're just stuck in, the corporate land of posting content on your corporate page and getting your employees to go thumbs up. So a company after company, that's what I'm seeing, kind of dead corporate LinkedIn pages and no employee engagement.
It's a huge challenge for people like you and me. You more so because you're more B2B. I'm a little bit of a mixture. If anything, I'm probably more B2C. But that whole idea of, getting that buy-in when they're thinking, what's in it for me? And feeling disillusioned. And you're just kind of, you're the very pleasant, very nice intermediary, trying to make everything all rosy in the garden. But I can imagine that to be a real challenge. But that's why you're so good, because you find the cut through and overcome it. So I'm curious. So what does the term content distribution mean to you? A lot of people confuse distribution with promotion when they're two different things. So how do you define distribution, and how does it differ from content promotion?
Yeah, a good point about people confusing the two. Okay, so distribution is pushing it out into different channels, just getting it out. We'll talk about channels in a minute, but promotion is about maximizing the number of people who see it. So let me give an example of concert tickets. Think about selling tickets to a great concert. So you can sell it through all the normal channels, right? Online, in person, whatever. But if no one knows about it, it won't sell out. So if you promote it, on the other hand, then people will know about it and it will sell out. So content's the same way. People won't consume it unless they know about it.
Yeah. And that's where the challenge comes in, as I said before, if helping people know about it and having the best content in the world and no one knows about it. You've made me realize that I haven't been to a great concert for a long time, and I probably should get some tickets to it. So if only I had access to a great distribution channel. But going back to my original question, how have you found that B2B content distribution has evolved over time? Because I imagine you've seen a fair amount of change over the years.
Yeah, and to me, there seems like kind of a before and after. And it's before and after AI. And the last thing I want to do is deep dive into AI, but it's where we're at right now. So in the years past, it was all publishing on your website and optimizing for SEO and kind of hoping for traffic. So those were plays with a lot of broad keywords, and that worked in the past to get eyeballs on your content. But SEO is only one channel, and it's not even the best one anymore. SEO assumes that people are looking for what you want to talk about. That's not always the case. It assumes that they already have names for their problems. That's not always the case. So what if they aren't searching for that? How do you get your eyes on stuff? So SEO limits you to what people are searching for. So what's the answer? You have to distribute elsewhere and promote a lot. For example, a newsletter. So get your content out to the people who have already raised their hands. Send out a weekly newsletter and be consistent with it. Social. Put snippets of that content on your socials and distribute it and promote it that way. And also industry magazines. I don't know if people are defocusing on syndications and publications in industry magazines, but people still read industry. I get an industry magazine and I read it cover to cover.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't see an awful lot of people go down the route of industry magazines anymore, even people like people in copywriting who I talk to, people who work in public relations. Like back in the day when I worked in PR, it was all about industry magazines and websites, and not just trying to gain backlinks, but trying to build credibility and trying to, can you still say thought leadership articles? Do people still say that? Writing thought leadership articles. I've actually got a follow-up question to what you just said there, and I'm not asking you to name names, but have you ever worked with a client where they just do not have any of that, but they're kind of expecting the stars and the moon, so they don't have a newsletter or social media, but then they're kind of coming to you saying, why is no one seeing our content?
Right. And they still are in the 2020s mentality, which is write a ton of blog posts, optimize for what people are searching for, and then let it do its magic. And maybe that used to be magic. And I see content farms right now that are turning out 100 blog posts, SEO optimized, and spiking traffic that way. But I don't believe that's a quality connection, craft, consistency play.
Yeah.
It feels like a spammy play right now. And frankly, people are going to chat, going to large language models to get their top of funnel information needs met. So if you're spamming people with AI written content that's top of the funnel, that's general, it's redundant. It's kind of just noise. So yeah.
I've got two schools of thought on this, or I'm a little bit in two minds about this, because on one hand, AI can generate content at scale. It can generate a lot of content at scale, but then can it generate good content at scale? So I'm seeing a lot of people, I don't know if you're noticing this as well, who are doing AI content challenges. We wrote 90 blog posts in 30 days using AI, and actually the results of this were great. And I'm very skeptical about it, because I'm thinking, well, A, I've not read the content, and B, I've not seen the results it's got. I'm just taking your word for it. I feel like there's a little bit of bluff going on, and I'm not sure how much I really believe it all. Obviously, I use AI for my content, full transparency. I don't use it verbatim, but I use it for guidelines and hooks and things like that. I'm very cynical when I see these AI content challenges, because when you get to the point where your whole hook is about quantity over quality, to me, that's a big problem.
Define results. If high web traffic is the results you wanted, then great, that could be your play. But if results are highly qualified leads or buyers with high intent raising their hand to talk to you, if your results are getting more subscribers for your newsletters, then no, it's not that's not what these content farms are talking about, these AI content farms.
Yeah. It's like that old argument. I'm going a little bit off piste here, so I'm going to bring it back to what we're meant to be talking about in a second. But, you know, when it comes to content creation, I always talk about the value of low volume, long tail keywords, because I would sooner have 100 people a month landing on my content where the user intent is super clear and they're ready to buy and they're towards the bottom of the funnel, than do what a lot of these SEO gurus suggest you do, which is go for a really high volume, low difficulty keyword, because it's like, well, that keyword might not be remotely relevant to our product offering. And even if it is relevant, how the hell do we optimize it to ensure conversions? Because quite often the keywords that they pull out are top of the funnel. And okay, top of the funnel has its place, but you're not gonna make quick money that way. So I think it's all about being smart and being pragmatic, and that's something I don't really see an awful lot of. I do on some podcasts that I listen to, but not too many.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself about why to go for long tail keywords. And I don't want to throw my SEO friends under the bus. You know, a lot of them are doing very intelligent shifting from 2021 SEO to 2024 SEO. And their approaches now cover long-term strategy and cover quality over quantity, and they balance those very well. But there are still a handful of SEOs who are all about, and then SEO and AI is pairing right now.
Yeah.
And SEO play driven by hundreds of AI. I mean, those seem to be pairing right now, but strong SEOs are saying, no, we're going to decouple that. We're still going to go for long-term keywords. There still are some very valuable SEO best practices, but I'm not going to pair it with a quantity push that's driven by AI.
So, no, absolutely not.
Right.
And you'll never see me use AI for a full keyword research plan. No. SEMrush all the way, and Ahrefs.
Okay.
Yeah, Ahrefs as well. Other keyword tools are available. So going back to promotion, can you tell me more about how you approach promotion and some of the challenges that you see there?
Yeah, you bet. What I see over and over again is companies promote their content once. So they write a great blog post, and then the next day you see a post on social, and that's it, right? So using it only once is one of the biggest missteps that I see. Promote the same content multiple times and keep the message fresh by remixing it. So repurposing is also a challenge. And I think people misunderstand that repetition and repetitiveness is good. It's good for your brand. You'll get sick of your message way before your buyers do. You're sick to death of your message. You're sick to death of your point of view. Your buyers aren't. They haven't seen it enough. They need to see it, 10 times before it clicks. So promote multiple times and remix your content. So turn the blog post into a newsletter, turn it into 8 socials, same message, but yeah, different permutation.
You see that so often. I've been in companies before where I've written a blog post or I've put out a newsletter with some articles in it. And people have said to me, just put it out the once or twice because people will get fed up with it if they see it more. It's like, well, no, they won't. I mean, our newsletter catchment might be, say, 100,000 or 200,000 subscribers, of which, okay, if 30 or 40% of those open the first email, that's still about 50,000 other people who haven't. And 50,000 other people who aren't as familiar with the brand as the next person and haven't seen your message. And I mean, I talked about this on a podcast that I recorded yesterday that will be out next week about how many interactions you have with a brand before you convert. That's the key thing. I can't remember the exact number, but I want to say it was between half a dozen and a dozen interactions.
It's like 12, right? It is like 12. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why, it's like, if you think about that, then promotion becomes all the more important when you think about the steps people have to go through.
Right. Promotion coupled with remixing, so you can get it out there in multiple ways, multiple formats, for example. Yeah.
Okay. So you have told me before we recorded this podcast that you have a great story about a distribution mistake that you've made. So the floor is yours.
Sure.
Let's hear it.
I was working for a company who was, to their credit, experimental and willing to take risks, right? And they had developed a really cool ROI assessment. What they decided to do was put that thing on a poster, like a huge 2-foot by 3-foot poster, roll it up into a tube, put labels on it, and send it to 300 of their customers, 300 people on their contact list. The problem with distributing content in that way is not being able to track it. So they could have put like a QR code. I think they put the URL there, but nobody's going to type it in. They could have put a QR code on there for people to take a picture of. So it is a perfect example of spending a lot of money on something maybe innovative, but didn't give the results that you wanted it to because it wasn't trackable. Yeah. So that was a $20,000 mistake.
$20,000. Oh man.
Yeah, because you're creating the poster. I mean, the vendor charged $5,000 for that, and then buying the tubes, and then paying someone to stuff the tubes, and then paying for postage around the world. It was not cheap.
And I don't know how the accountability process works there. Like how many awkward conversations are happening, or does anybody care? I guess it really depends on the business and their budgets. But yeah, $20,000 is not a small amount of money.
Yeah, no, it's not. Nobody got in trouble. Everybody was happy to experiment, but that's kind of an expensive one.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive. So, I mean, I don't know. I've got this question written down. We talked about it before the podcast about metrics or KPIs. I don't know if you want to say anything much on that. I know that you've had a few kind of ideas that you've thrown out there. So things like, traffic, engagement, opens. I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. You bet. What I would say is that it's the promotion that drives the success and that drives your metrics up. It's not the distribution that drives the metrics up or that you really should or could track. It's promotion. So for example, once you promote on the web through SEO, you track traffic. That's your metric. Once you post on social, you track engagement. That's your metric. And once you publish in a newsletter, then it's opens that you track.
Yeah.
So I hope that's clear. After you promote, you track the effectiveness of that effort.
Yeah, absolutely. I think John Bonini, is that his data box? He talks quite a lot about that.
Yeah, does he? Okay.
Yeah, he's definitely one to follow. So what is your one big prediction for content in 2024? Again, before we came on the podcast, you said I've got a good answer for this one. So I'm really keen to know what you have to say here.
I think that smart brands are going to be producing more zero-click content. So zero-click content is a concept from Amanda Natividad. Her last name means Christmas in Spanish, which I think is totally cool. So you should follow Amanda Natividad on LinkedIn. Okay. So her concept of zero-click content is the idea that all of your content is native for the platform. So You see a lot of people posting social posts and it just has a sentence and it says, go to our blog and there's a link. That is not zero-click content. That is content that makes you click to get the goods and sends you off the platform. So LinkedIn will penalize you for that. So the idea is put the value in the post, put the value in your newsletter, write content that's native for the platform, and don't send people away. And why is that? Well, people are busy. They don't want to go read a long blog post. They want the value. They want the information to come to them quickly in the format that they want it. So the idea is that's going to help brand loyalty. That's going to help with connections. That's going to help with awareness by putting the value in the post itself. So zero-click content, also sometimes called no-click content, same thing.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, that kind of ties in with something I've done with the podcast, which is I will still link to this podcast in one of the forthcoming posts. But before I do that, I typically share 2 or 3 posts with shorts in them. So people are still getting some of the value before they're taken off the site. Because I'm thinking, well, if I just put up a thumbnail of you and I talking now, and they don't know us from Adam or Eve, and I just say, we talk about B2B content distribution tactics, they're just going to go, wow, okay.
Yeah, so what?
Whereas if I include a couple of shorts that people find relatable or interesting, then I think that kind of builds the trust a bit more. But yeah, it is a really interesting concept. And I guess one that I've not thought of, although I generally don't link too much out of LinkedIn anyway, because I kind of think, what's the point? Unless it's something super valuable,
right?
Then I just try to avoid it where I can. But Lee, thank you so much. That was fantastic. We covered some ground there, and you've given me some amazing insights. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you or ask any questions?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. So look me up on LinkedIn. Follow me, send me a connection request. You can send me a DM and I'll connect with you that way. And you could check out my website, which is globiacontent.com.
Great. And I'll put all the links in the description to the video as well. So cool. Lee, try to get off early today. Try not to work too hard.
Never.
7 a.m.
Okay. Thank you, Neil.
Thanks, Lee.